Here's 30 things that we no longer buy as frugal minimalists.
Josh and I are frugal minimalists, which means we're hyper aware of what we spend our money on. The things we buy and the things we don't buy have a huge impact on our bank account and our ability to live a simplified, uncluttered life.
Here's 30 things that we no longer buy as frugal minimalists. As always, this isn't financial advice. We're simply sharing what we choose to no longer spend our money on as frugal minimalists.
First up, dry shampoo. This is something I used to use regularly when I worked in the city at my 9-to-5 office job. It was easy, convenient, and meant I could go a little bit longer between hair washing days. But the cost of dry shampoo is actually kind of ridiculous for what it is. A bottle easily costs $20 and never lasts long enough. I found myself constantly buying them, and because I was so regular with buying them, I actually started to notice that the price was going up, but the sizes were getting smaller. Shrinkflation is a frustrating thing to watch, especially on a product that you regularly buy. I started to think to myself, what if I can DIY my own greener, healthier alternative? One that isn't loaded with harsh chemicals and ingredients that I can't even pronounce. I found a recipe on Pinterest and tweaked it to my liking. It's just 3 ingredients: arrowroot powder, cocoa powder, and a few drops of lavender oil. It's amazing and it does a fantastic job, and just wish I made this sooner. It would have saved me a lot of money and cut down on some really harsh chemicals. There's actually a class lawsuit going on at the moment against one of the most widely used dry shampoos in the world. It's actually the one that I used to use. It's been linked to some pretty awful health concerns. That was quite a long one for number 1. But if I can simplify and cut down on actual hair wash days in a greener, more cost-efficient way, then why not? Since starting the switch to a natural dry shampoo that I make at home, it's also opened me up to learning a lot more about environmentally friendly and more frugal swaps.
Number 2, eating out versus home-cooked meals. Eating out is another one that we've almost cut out entirely. We only eat out at restaurants and cafes on very special occasions. Jess and I would easily eat 99% of our meals at home, and it saves us so much money in the long term. The cost of eating out has gone up so much in recent times. Just a while ago, we went out and we got 2 burgers and a small fries each, and that cost us $50, which compared to eating at home where we can easily feed ourselves for a couple dollars each, and sometimes even cheaper if we're bulk making things, it's an absolute no-brainer. We recently made a huge pot of veggie chili at home, and it worked out to be around about 80 cents a serve, and we made 32 meals from it. Compare that to almost $50 for one meal, and it is a very clear choice.
Continuing on with the topic of eating out, when we do eat out, Josh and I actually don't get individual main meals. We usually get one main meal that we split between the 2 of us, and maybe an entree, depending on how hungry we are. I cannot remember the last time I went to a restaurant and they didn't serve a humongous main meal that I had no chance at getting through. The serves are always far too large, and it comes with a hefty price tag. Josh and I love splitting our meals. It means we can bond over the food even more because we get to try a little bit of everything, and is kind of romantic.
Number 4, haircuts. Jess and I have taken to always cutting our own hair at home, and it saves us so much money over the course of the year. It actually started years before the pandemic, and it has saved us so much money. Personally, I would usually get my hair cut once a month, and it would cost me around about $30 to $40 depending on where I got it cut. And that's not to mention Jess's hair, and as a woman it is so much more expensive for her to get her hair cut, even just a trim. We've worked it out in the past, and it turns out we save around about $2,000 a year just by getting our hair cut at home. Not only that, it saves us time having to go out to a hairdresser's as well. So it's a total win-win.
Number 5, meal delivery services like Uber Eats. Josh and I tried this one time, and it was all we needed to make the decision that we will not be doing that again. Our Uber Eats driver got lost, rocked up 2 hours late, and our food was cold. And I was extremely hungry by then. I was hangry by the end of it. Meal delivery services oftentimes cost more for the actual delivery than it does for the food, unless you're buying a lot. And for Josh and I, it's never enough food to make up for the delivery cost, at least where we live. The cost of someone driving out and dropping food off to you on an individual meal basis is just not worth it, in my opinion. We have a fridge full of food and home cooked meals in our freezer at all times, so we never get caught out, because that's where the urge to splurge on meal delivery services comes in.
Number 6, new phones as soon as they drop. Both of our phones we have had for several years now, and whatever phone we have, we love it until the end of its life. It is so expensive getting a new phone every single year whenever the new one drops, and the upgrades are always super small each time. Whereas if we hold on to our phones for a few years, when we eventually do upgrade, the performance increase and the quality of life features are so much more significant. Not only that, it means we've never had to put ourselves on a payment plan for a phone. We've always bought them outright, and now we are just on a $15 a month phone plan, which gives us everything we need. Not to mention, it also saves on huge amounts of e-waste, because now we don't have to throw out our phones every year, which is a cost not just for the individual, but also for the environment.
Number 7, fast fashion. There seems to be a huge amount of pressure to cycle out clothing based on the current trends. When I was in high school, I was certainly in this boat, always looking for the latest fashion trend. But as I got older, and especially as I started my first office job and became increasingly overwhelmed every single morning with the sheer amount of clothes, the bold, bright, vibrant colors and patterns, and the sheer amount of time it was taking me to put together an outfit based on endless combinations, I realized it's a lot to keep up with, and trends come and go and come and go, and it's because there's a lot of money in the business of fast fashion. This pressure that we feel because we're bombarded with advertisements, having people need to cycle out their clothes every single season to buy new items. It's completely unsustainable, it's costly, and it's awful for our environment. So I no longer buy fast fashion. I buy simple, basic items that I know I'll love. It also makes getting ready in the morning so much easier, and it saves me a lot of time, energy, and money. There's a lot I could say about fast fashion, but that's a topic for another time. When it comes to clothes, whenever I'm buying something new, I always look at the cost per wear. This is the cost of the item divided by the times you are going to wear it. There's some things that you will probably only ever wear the one time. Like a bridesmaid's dress is something you will probably only wear the one time for that specific event. If the bridesmaid's dress costs you $300, that is its cost per wear. Whereas the other day I bought a pair of grey sweatpants. They were $30 and I will be wearing these multiple times a week because I live in sweatpants. I work from home, so I live in sweatpants. The cost per wear for this is minuscule, which makes it completely worth it in my eyes. Also, when it comes to clothing, I am a big proponent of quality over quantity.
Number 8, brand name clothing. The cost markup on brand name clothing is huge. It would easily be $100 for a fancy brand name polo shirt, whereas a simple basic one of a similar level of quality will be so much cheaper. You're basically paying extra just to promote a brand for free. We personally find that flashy logos can detract from the rest of your outfit, plus they're so much more expensive.
Number 9, home decor. Just like fast fashion, home decor has trends that come and go. It's a huge industry, one that is based on keeping up with the Joneses. There's a constant pressure to cycle out your home decor to keep up with what the latest trend is. Last year, it was all deep greens and arched paintings. I personally hate dusting. Home decor is a dust collector. A few pieces of home decor here and there, pieces that you truly love and you know will stand the test of time, I can absolutely get behind. I certainly have some beautiful pieces in my home, like this pineapple lamp. I'm obsessed with this pineapple lamp. But beyond that, I find that the upkeep of needing to dust and rearrange and constantly cycle in and out these home decor finds is exhausting. Plus the dust that they collect really sets off our hay fever. I love having a beautiful home and taking pride in it, but I refuse to spend my hard-earned money trying to keep up with the latest home decor trends. We find what we like and we stick to it. I still love op shopping and finding the quirkiest, fun things to decorate our new home with, but these days they are few and far between.
Number 10, credit cards. Both Jess and I don't have any credit cards. Because we do live in Australia and our credit system works differently than the rest of the world, credit cards aren't a necessity here. They're highly encouraged, but they're not necessary. And this way, whenever we pay cash for any of our regular purchases, we don't have to worry about credit card interest piling up and ending up having to pay more than the actual purchase price for whatever we need. A lot of the time, you can end up paying more as that interest piles up. Plus, this way, we find we are much more intentional with our purchases, as it is fully our money that we are using to make the purchase, rather than some abstract credit system. It feels more real using the money that we do have rather than what we've borrowed from credit cards.
Number 11, subscription services that we're not currently using. Josh and I really prefer binge watching a single show on a single platform at any one time, in contrast to bouncing around and watching many different shows across different platforms at the one time. We love sticking with the one show and binging it from start to finish. It's just a much more enjoyable way of watching. This frees us up to pause any subscription services that we're not currently using for that month. For example, if we want to watch Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime, that rhymed, we'll watch that from start to finish and then watch whatever other show we had teed up on Amazon Prime. Perhaps the next month there might be a show that we want to watch on Netflix, so we'll freeze Amazon Prime and just have the one Netflix subscription. This actually saves us an incredible amount of money over the year.
Number 12, expensive phone plans. We mentioned earlier, but both Jess and I are actually on a $15 phone plan each. This is incredibly cheap compared to the ones that we used to have. Previously, it was easily $80 a month for both of us, so $160 a month versus $30. And then we had way too much data compared to what we actually needed. This is such a better use of our money, and it also ties back into us not being on a payment plan for our phone. So we have complete freedom as to which plans we pick and what provider.
Number 13, cheap shoes. When I first started working, my first job out of uni, I would buy the prettiest yet cheapest shoes imaginable. They looked nice, but only for a season. There was one day where I was walking in the city during my lunch break and my shoe broke. I'd only had that pair of shoes for 5 days. They were gorgeous, but completely impractical. Never lasted a full season, and I was constantly on the hunt for a good pair of shoes. That was the day as I was limping, carrying my shoe in hand back to the office, and I vowed from that day on that I was never going to buy a cheap pair of shoes ever again. I did a lot of looking around and research and stumbled across a really cool brand that makes shoes out of plastic bottles. I got a black pair and a beige pair. So they are completely practical. They go with every single outfit I could possibly imagine. I've worn them every single day and they are still going strong. I will never go back to cheap, flimsy shoes that fall apart within weeks.
Number 14, bottled water. Years ago, Jess and I both bought reusable water bottles, and these save us so much money. They're fantastic. If you're still buying single-use disposable water bottles, they're not great for the environment or your wallet.
Number 15, new books. A goal for this year for Josh and I was not buying any brand new books. We still love books and we read them every day. Reading books is one of our greatest joys, and we love op shopping for books. It's like a treasure hunt to find our next great adventure. We recently found this gorgeous book, pristine condition. I don't think it's ever been read. It was $3 and it's one that we've been holding out for a while. It's absolutely stunning and cannot wait to read this. Between op shopping for thrifted books and not buying them brand new, and also using the Libby app for free ebooks, it just connects to our library cards, we save an incredible amount of money not buying brand new books.
Number 16, new laptops. We've kept so many of our old laptops working by simply replacing the old, slow hard drive by a much faster SSD. It took a couple minutes to do for each one, and then just to reinstall Windows, and those laptops have been going for years. I did this with Jess's laptop that she has had for 10 years, and that thing is still going strong. I also did it with my dad's 12-year-old laptop that he handed down to me, and I still use that thing every day. It's an absolute tank of a laptop, and the keyboard is surprisingly good to type on. You can learn anything from YouTubing, and just a little bit of research has saved us thousands of dollars over the years for having to buy new laptops. It also helps the environment by reducing e-waste because we don't have to throw these old laptops out. They also don't make things like they used to, so a small little upgrade to an SSD can prolong the life of a fantastic old laptop that's going to keep going for many more years.
Number 17, physical DVDs and movies. This one was a no-brainer for Josh and I when we moved in with each other, and he had DVDs, I had DVDs. We had a huge collection between the two of us. Growing up in the 90s, it was just the thing you did. But nowadays, with streaming services allowing us to watch anything and everything at the press of a button, is a wonderful way to reduce clutter by either selling or donating old DVDs and movies.
Number 18, expensive sunglasses. It'll be hard to find a person who's never lost a pair of sunglasses. It's just a shared human experience. And if you haven't lost them, you've sat on them and crushed them. Jess and I are both rocking the same $20 pair of sunnies that we bought years ago. They're durable, we don't have to worry if we lose them, and it gives us such a peace of mind compared to if we were rocking a $400 pair of sunnies.
Number 19, very much related to the fancy sunglasses, is the fancy watches. Josh and I are just not watch people. We use our Fitbits and they are fantastic for tracking our heart rates, our sleep patterns, but when it comes to fancy, overly expensive watches, it's just something that we have never been drawn to. For many of the same reasons as Josh just chatted about with the fancy sunglasses, same goes for fancy watches. It means we don't have to worry about losing them, scratching them, or keeping up with the Joneses with the changing trends of fancy watches. Time remains the same despite what watch you have. We've had our Fitbits for years and they are incredibly useful. They are also dual use. Not only do they tell the time, they measure health metrics like how we're sleeping, our heart rate, many useful things that a typical fancy analog watch just can't. It's rare that Josh and I will splurge on a thing purely for the aesthetics of it, especially fancy watches that can come at an incredibly high price tag.
Number 20, single-use food containers. Over the last few years, Jess and I have built up a healthy supply of reusable Tupperware containers. They're microwave safe, dishwasher safe, and freezer safe. This means it's much easier for us to meal prep our food in bulk, which then in turn saves us money, and we don't have any of the harsh chemicals from the flimsy single-use plastics that you normally find with your single-use Tupperware containers. We've also started to transition over to glass Tupperware containers, so we get the added benefit of being able to see what is actually in our freezer, plus they are even more durable and long-lasting than the plastic ones. They've been a great investment and it has drastically improved our quality of life over the last few years. We save a lot of money not buying single-use plastic containers.
Number 21, a second car. Josh and I only have the one car. Our life circumstances probably look a lot different to yours, and that's totally okay, but we do have the one car. It means that we cut down on added costs such as registration, insurance, maintenance, the list goes on. Having a second car or a third or a fourth or a fifth, like many families do, can really bump up the cost of living. Cars are expensive, and reducing the number of cars means more money in your bank account and better things for the environment in the long term.
Number 22, coffee out. It's very rare that Jess and I will buy a coffee out. The markup on coffee out is significant compared to us just having a French press at home with coffee beans and it coming out to a couple of cents per cup compared to it being $7+ for a single coffee.
Number 23, new makeup. Experimenting with new makeup was something that I used to do all the time. The cost for makeup can be incredible. I would nearly always have buyer's remorse when trying out a new product. Now I stick to the same foundation that I've had for the last 10 years and I thoroughly enjoy having a simple makeup routine. It saves a lot of money and it helps me get ready in a pinch.
Number 24, ready-made meals. Ready-made meals are incredibly convenient, but they also come at a huge markup. You pay for convenience. Jess and I were in the supermarket the other week and we saw a single ready-made tuna mornay that was $13. We could make this at home for 50 cents a serve and make multiple serves in a single sitting. The cost of a ready-made meal may not seem huge on its own, but over the course of a week, a month, and a year, that cost really adds up.
Number 25, designer handbags. Just like we talked about earlier with brand name clothing, there is a huge markup on designer bags. Thankfully, it's not something that I have ever been drawn towards, but I understand there's many people who are. There's a certain perceived status that comes with owning a designer bag, which is something that I have never quite gotten on board with. This attitude has saved me a heck of a lot of money. A lot of the time, these designer handbags don't fit every outfit, whereas the bags that I have lasted me over 10 years, and they're simple black and go with every single outfit.
Number 26, coffee pods. Years ago, we had a coffee machine that required the aluminium coffee pods. They're expensive, bad for the environment, and they're not infinitely recyclable. These coffee pods can usually only be recycled a handful of times before they end up in landfill. Like we mentioned before, we have a French press at home, freshly ground coffee beans, and the coffee that comes from that is absolutely incredible, and it comes out at a fraction of the price even of the coffee pods that you may find at the supermarket. It's also another appliance that we don't need to keep, and we were able to sell our old coffee pod machine on Facebook Marketplace to recoup some of that cost. Our plunger is dual use for coffee and for tea, and it takes up a fraction of the space. Freshly ground black coffee is far superior in my opinion.
Number 27, the latest tech drops. We're living in an age where tech is constantly evolving. There's new tech drops every single year, sometimes multiple times a year. We have a wonderful little camera that we love using. We've had it for a number of years. When we do buy new tech, it's usually second hand, so it comes at a fraction of the cost, and it also gives it some time for the bugs to be ironed out. The new tech drops every year also come at a premium price tag, and they also lose their value really quick. You can save a lot of money by buying slightly older tech, and by slightly older in this day and age, it can mean a couple of months. Last year we spent a lot of time deciding on a good microphone, and we landed on the Rode Wireless Go. We shopped around and found an incredibly priced one on Facebook Marketplace. We saved hundreds of dollars by not buying it new, and it's still going strong today. It was basically brand new in the box. We could take our time and shop around a bit.
Number 28, monthly software subscriptions. There are so many different subscription services out there, and this also extends into computer software. We have to use so many different programs these days, and the cost can really add up for every single one of them that has a subscription. Both Jess and I do a happy dance whenever we find a program that just has a single once-off lifetime purchase. Even though it may be a little more expensive to start off with, it doesn't take too long before you start to save money compared to having to pay for a monthly subscription. For example, DaVinci Resolve and PDF Exchange. I really wish that more programs and software would just have a single once-off purchase.
Number 29, printer ink. Josh and I went digital quite a while ago, and it means that we don't have to buy printer ink anymore. We haven't in over 5 years. Printer ink is surprisingly expensive. Again, it's also not great for the environment. It is a big commitment going fully digital, but I feel far more calm and collected knowing that I have everything that I ever need in a digital format rather than paper. Not to mention, it also saves on a huge amount of clutter in the house. Paper clutter can be a real burden. It's awful when you need to find a piece of paper and you have to rummage through a huge stack of it to find what you need. We'll be doing a video soon on going digital and reducing physical paper clutter, so watch out for that.
Last up, we have brand name groceries. Similar to brand name clothes, brand name groceries have a huge markup on them. More often than not, they're made in the exact same factory on the exact same process line than your cheaper generic brands. You can save a huge amount of money just by swapping up your brand name groceries for the cheaper generic brands. Jess and I have done this for years. Pine nuts are pine nuts. There is no need to shell out for the fancy brand name when the much cheaper generic one will do the exact same thing. Next time you're in the shops, look high, look low. That's where the generic brands are going to be. Your wallet is going to thank you. If you want to learn more about saving money while you're grocery shopping, you can check out one of our previous videos where we delve into this in a huge amount of detail. Food is one of life's biggest expenses, and it's great to cut costs where you can and be smart about how you spend your money. So make sure you check out our video.
We hope you enjoyed this list of 30 things that we no longer buy as frugal minimalists. Cutting these costs really does save us an incredible amount of money that then we can put into things that we value more. Let us know in the comments below what are the things that you no longer buy, and if anything on this list inspired you to perhaps cut down on some unnecessary spending.
Thank you all so much for watching, and with that, we'll catch you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
It also doubles as a hat.
Dual use.
Yeah. Dual use. Books are also hats.